Welcome everyone, this is Lisa Satora and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about inventory management and obsolete inventory. And one of the things as an online business owner that is so critical that you're able to wrap your arms around and get under control is managing your inventory. This becomes incredibly important as you scale your business because you've got to know what inventory that you have on hand, where it's located, whether it's fresh inventory, meaning it's new and in season and selling, or whether it is stale, aged, or obsolete inventory, and you need to start looking at clearing that out of your inventory. As businesses grow, it's not uncommon for inventory and the management of inventory to really get out of control. And it costs you money, it costs you time, and it really sucks the life out of your business. So today we have back with us again Crystal Wells, product marketing and multi-channel expert at Vendio, and Harry Hirschman, who is the VP of Marketing and Customer Service. And they are going to be here today to talk about handling inventory management and dealing with obsolete inventory. And Crystal, Harry, thank you so much for coming back to talk to us about this very important topic.
Thank you very much. We really enjoy coming to your webinars.
Crystal, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the presentation over to you, and then we can just jump right into talking about this very important topic.
So today we're really going to talk about inventory management and obsolete inventory, and there's a lot of components to this, and it's something that's really hard for sellers to get a hold of. It's really hard for sellers to let go of. So we're going to take some time and go through the numbers. We're going to give you some information about your obsolete inventory and managing your inventory in general. So this really is a non-promotional webinar for Vendio. We're giving you a lot of details and stuff that really doesn't have anything to do with our service. So I do want to take a minute and talk about Vendio and tell you what Vendio is. And then we're going to talk about inventory management and why inventory management is important. We're going to talk about where your inventory is and your real cost of inventory. And then we're going to talk about some bad habits or brilliant planning, and then we're going to talk about dealing with obsolete inventory. So just a little bit about Vendio. We were founded in 1999, and we have a really long history of helping merchants run successful online businesses. We're a leading on-demand multi-channel e-commerce platform with over 100,000 merchants who sell over $2 billion of goods annually. And we're a powerful solution for managing listings, sharing inventory and sales across your branded website, Amazon, eBay, Facebook, and mobile. With Vendio, you're actually able to break through a lot of the barriers to sales by listing more products in more places in less time. And one thing to note is that we're really quick to get up and running without consultants or programmers, and it really is the best value for your business, and especially for those who want to run their business and not their software. So really, let's talk about what inventory is. In a seller's mind, it may be a pile of stuff on a shelf, and you think that's your inventory. But in all actuality, your inventory is a complete list of your property, your goods in stock, the content of the building. So it's really, you really need to know exactly what inventory you have available, where it's located, where it's for sale, and it's going to be hard, if not totally impossible, to manage your inventory effectively if you don't have that someplace. So I'm going to reiterate that again. If you don't know exactly where your inventory is, what you have available, where it's located, and where it's for sale, you are never going to be able to get a handle on your inventory, and it's going to take up so much of your time when it comes time to doing your end-of-year physical count, etc. So I'm going to put a necessary disclaimer in here. One, not all sellers are equal. And the rules of thumb that I'm going to go through today may not apply to you in some categories. In some categories it may. So just be careful and don't say, well, you told me that it cost me X to do Y, and it's not true. Of course, these are rules of thumb, and they don't apply to everyone. And a necessary disclaimer is that we're not accountants or tax professionals. So really, before you decide to take any advice that we're offering here today, please make sure you talk to your accountant or tax professional. And that's always a good idea to do at least once a year anyway. So managing inventory really is like a balancing act on a high wire without a net. The real cost of inventory is something that sellers really don't have a handle on. There are some of you who may have a really good idea and know exactly what your inventory costs you and do, but generally sellers just don't have a really good idea unless they're really large and they have accountants on staff. They don't have a good idea of what inventory really costs them. So I'm going to talk about something that sellers may not consider, and these are carrying costs. Carrying costs are really what your inventory costs you for having it. That's it. Just having it on a shelf, your inventory costs you money. And it costs you money by lost opportunity, taxes and insurance, warehouses and storage, handling, clerical, obsolescence, which we're going to talk a bit in depth about, and breakage and theft. And we're going to talk about each one of these carrying costs and where the average seller fits in as far as their percentage, et cetera. So the carrying cost of unsold inventory, let's say you buy 10 widgets at $10 each. That means you have $100, or you have $100 in widgets. So let's follow that $100 for years. They remain unsold. So the first thing that is a carrying cost is breakage and theft. Now, breakage and theft describes inventory that is lost due to breakage, damage, returns that you can't resell, and other factors which make the item unusable to be resold. And also, and here's something that I'm really guilty of, and I put this on here, is that I sell cutlery, and I went down to my garage and on a shelf, and I took a knife block set because I wanted a new knife block set. Now, the accounting end of that was really miserable. We had to do journal adjustments to try to get this right because I took my own stock to use as personal goods. So, it's kind of like a credit to the officer's draw. So it became something to note. So, yeah, if you ever take items out of stock for personal use, that also becomes part of this cost of breakage and theft. And that runs about 2 to 4% a year, and it may be higher if you're selling on Amazon and get a lot of returns. They're really open with their returns, so I've gotten quite a few back from Amazon, but none of them have been resellable or unsellable. So I'm lucky, but I've heard a lot of stories from sellers who do end up. So it may be even higher than the 4% if you're an Amazon seller with a lot of returns. Obsolescence. This is an area where sellers can really control their costs, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But obsolescence really costs about 6 to 12% a year. So the carrying cost on your investment is somewhere around $6 to $12 on your $100 investment. And if you want to think about what obsolescence is, it really means that the market has shifted from when you purchased. For example, the market begins to shift a lot faster with electronics. So you think beta, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and now it's all streaming, so your DVDs are pretty worthless. And in the collectibles market, if any of you are collectible sellers, I can tell you I do not think Beanie Babies are coming back. And I bet I hear some laughter in the background that we can't hear. Another example would be when I first started in antiques. Pressed glass was all the rage, which just gives away my age. And the pressed glass, you just can't give away now because people don't understand that market. So obsolescence is seasonal. It's things that go out of stock. It's the new model coming out. It's trends. It's all these things. And it doesn't mean you necessarily made a bad buying decision. It just means that this inventory on your shelf is costing you money every year if you don't sell it, and you should probably try to get a little bit of a handle on that. Clerical cost, 1 to 4%. and this includes things such as maintaining, tagging, maintaining your inventory records and spreadsheets, if any of you are doing that, and any associated work. And time is money. So I'm going to take a minute and I'm just going to tell a couple stories that have come my way recently from talking to sellers and why time is so important. There is a woman who I talked to just recently who has 3 computers because she has 3 eBay accounts. She copies and pastes every single one of her shipping labels using the appropriate computer. And she does this for 4 to 5 hours every single day. And I'm going to repeat that. 4 to 5 hours copying and pasting and printing shipping labels. This is something that can be absolutely and totally controlled and automated. I know we automated it at Vendio, other services automate it, and instead of spending that 20 to 25 hours every single week copying and pasting, she could totally automate it, and in her time has got to be worth something. She could actually be listing or making more money someplace else. It just amazed me that when she told me that story. So really be cognizant of your time as well. And the second story was another gentleman I talked to who just told me, I'm just not making any money. And I looked at his listings, and he had 10,000 items up on eBay. The problem was every single item was $1.39. So he has long descriptions, and for each one of his items, these are not auctions, by the way. These are fixed price, $1.39 car parts. He takes apart cars and lists everything at $1.39. Some of them are a little bit higher, but the average selling price that he has is $1.39. And so with that $1.39, with 10,000 items, he just can't make money, even though he's selling a lot every month. And the reason being is he has to spend X amount of time creating his listing, X amount of time doing his photographing, X amount of time shipping his items. Unless the average order is 10 to 20 items, he's just not going to make any money. And so you've got to be really careful about what you sell your items for. So it's not just saving your time, it's just making sure that you're doing the right thing with your time. And Lisa does a lot with sourcing. So if you're one of these sellers who sell a lot of low-priced items and you find at the end of the month that you're not making any money, get a hold of her and spend some time with her. And also if you're a seller who is spending a lot of time on tasks that could be automated, at the end, get a hold of me. So there are solutions for these things, and I'll go back on track now. So the next carrying cost, is handling. And this costs about 2 to 4% a year, or $2 to $4 on each $100. And this includes things such as your employee costs for actually handling the inventory. So it could also include the physical count, the time you take to do a physical count, keeping your inventory clean, tagging your inventory, etc. And here, again, time does count. If you've got glass vases and they sit on your shelf for 4 years, but you have to dust them every single month, there's a lot of handling time that could have been spent better spent. And then warehouse and storage costs about 2 to 5%. And this is where it may be an individual thing. If you're selling diamond earrings and your entire inventory is in a shoebox, perhaps your warehouse and storage is not that expensive. But your warehouse and storage does count, your utilities, your storage costs, and your warehouse costs if you have a warehouse and in the space in your house. And if you guys are not, if you're sole proprietorships, you could use the home office deduction for the space that you are using. So it's actually a tax advantage to look at this as well on the converse side. And then we have taxes and insurance. And so taxes and insurance applies not only to your inventory, but to the employees who handle and manage your inventory. So in this case, I want to take a brief swing off to the side and talk about the type of accounting you use. So there's 2 types of accounting, cost accounting and accrual accounting. And cost means that your inventory is determined at the time of the sale, and accrual means your inventory is based on your physical inventory. So depending on which one you use, especially in this collectible market, you may be on cost accounting, and so you got to be really careful when you're figuring out what your carrying costs are. Really depends on what type of accounting, and your taxes and insurance really depend on what type of accounting you use. If you're using accrual accounting and your inventory is sitting around for a really long time, you could be costing yourself a little bit of money. And you don't want that. And the next one is lost opportunity. And by the way, all these figures come from Wikipedia or Wiki for this information. And I think lost opportunity for sellers online is much higher than this, but I'm going to go with their figures. And I'm going to tell you why I think it's higher. So lost opportunity is defined is really what you could have made if you put the money you have tied up in your inventory elsewhere. And by elsewhere, they're talking about a bank or mutual fund or other investments. But if you take that money that was a lost opportunity and put it into product that is a great opportunity, your lost opportunity is much higher. So as a seller, if I have my $100 in widgets and they don't sell, I don't have a chance to invest that $100 in widgets that do sell.
And Crystal, I just want to jump in here about the lost opportunity because I agree with you 100%. For e-commerce sellers, that lost opportunity figure when you've got money tied up in unsold inventory is infinitely higher, than the 6 to 12%, and even higher than that if you're selling on a fast-paced market like Amazon. And I know you see this as much as I do, that people say, and I love how you're breaking this out, because so many people say, well, I sell online. I don't have, a lot of people don't have a physical a warehouse or a store, a brick and mortar store. They're not paying employees, etc. But when you see these costs broken down, the people who say, well, I've had this sitting in my store on eBay, or I've had it listed on Amazon for 3 years, that item has long since started costing you money. And especially, with new in-season goods, the trends and things change so rapidly now that the lost opportunity that you have by tying up your money in this dead inventory is tremendous, and you really can suck the life out of your business. You're cash poor because all your money is tied up in stuff that's not selling. So love this slide and the fact that you're breaking all of these costs out. I know it's really opening people's eyes to going, whoa, I didn't think about all those things.
Right. And it's also cumulative. So what happens is if this year I have 10 items that are obsolete, next year I have 20. Then 30, then 40, then 50. And all of a sudden, it just begins to cost me more and more money over time. So it's one of these things that sellers just think, oh, I have 10,000 items and, I sell X amount every month. The fact of the matter is your cumulative old inventory that's just not selling is probably going to choke the life out of your business over time. So let's look at some bottom line totals. So the fact of the matter is for each $100 that you carry for a year of unsold inventory, it costs you between 22 and 51 extra dollars. So here's all the inventory carrying costs and totals. On the low side, it's 22%. On the high side, it's 51%. So you think if I have a lot of returns, for example, my breakage and theft is higher. If I have somebody that comes in every week and just manages my spreadsheets, my clerical would be higher. So this is a rule of thumb, so you can actually take a look at this and think to yourself, where do I fall in this? And be honest, don't kind of like lowball it because you have a lot of obsolete inventory, because we're going to tell you how to take care of that obsolete inventory. So when you're thinking about this, what you really want to think about is what should you measure? And so there's 2 inventory metrics that will help make you money. One is your inventory turnover, and the second is your average days to sell. So an example of good is you buy 10 widgets at $10 each, and you sell 10 widgets at $12 or $14. And that's what we can look over on the slide to the right, and you can see the totals. So in this case, you really have a safety stock of about 10 widgets. You order 10, you get 10 back in. So your inventory turnover actually measures the number of times your inventory is sold or used per year. So if you have a lot of long tail items in your inventory, this number will be lower, and you really want to look at where your ideal number is, and you really want to make sure that your inventory turnover is where you want it to be. Take your top 20%, do your inventory turn for that, see where you're at, and that should be your goal. And that helps you get rid of your obsolete and older inventory that's not doing you any good to have in stock.
I think through the miracle of modern technology, you're able to hear me now. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for doing that. And yeah, great coverage on that that last slide, Crystal. It's exactly it. It's that you want that turnover to be high, and that means you're using your money efficiently. And 8 is a pretty strong number. So if you look at the top 20%, as Crystal suggested, and it's a whole lot different than if you include everything, that's a big tip that your financial performance could be a lot better.
Turnover and sell-through rate is something that I think many eBay sellers are more familiar with than Amazon sellers, because there are some tools out there that help you with your sell-through rate on eBay. But turning your inventory over, especially when we're looking at Amazon, new in-season, new consumer goods, that inventory needs to be turning. And Harry, you've got a turnover rate of 8, so every 46 days, which is, a really aggressive and awesome turnover, and that's absolutely something to shoot for. If that inventory has not sold, if it's not turning over, and we're hitting 90 days, now we're looking at stale inventory. 120 days, we're starting to look at aged inventory. So people really need to pay attention to this. And even though Amazon doesn't provide tools, and maybe you guys can speak to some ways for people to calculate this, this is a measurement of the health of your business. Because if you've got 10,000 units there, and those 10,000 units are not turning over on a fast-paced basis, your business is just limping along.
It's a huge drag. It's a ball and chain around your neck if your turnover is low, if your days are long. So just keep an eye on it. You'll see improvement. It's a great thing to focus on. It really makes a big difference, bottom line. But you can't cheat. You got to include that stuff that's been there a long time. If it's on your balance sheet, it's got to be in this calculation too. So this is another way of looking at the same metric in terms of days. Using the information you've got. Again, 46 days is a good number to shoot for. If you can get to 46 or below, you're doing just fine. I think most people, if they really include the stuff that's on the shelf that is just kind of, might as well not get rid of it. It'll sell someday. You'll see that number get huge. Especially for small businesses that aren't focused on financial statements. And you don't have to do financial statements to do this. And this will give you a lot of insight into how your business is doing. Back to you, Crystal.
Okay, so yeah, this is just a little basic math. And you put the formula in here, so when Lisa records it and shares it with you, you can actually just copy this formula and do this yourself. So the next slide is, how do I increase inventory turn and decrease inventory days? And so I want Harry to speak to this as well, and then I'll take it back to him.
Well, it sounds obvious, but listen, if you sell more with the same inventory, then your business is doing better. And for most people, if you want to sell more, you need to get to more buyers, and more buyers means more inventory in more places. Well, the beauty of online, and especially when with a tool like Vendio, and a shameless plug I'm going to put in here for it, is that you can share that same inventory across multiple locations and expose the same inventory to more buyers. Essentially, use the same inventory for eBay as you do for Amazon, as you do for your own store, as for Facebook and mobile shoppers and all the rest. It should all be coming out of the same place. It's coming out of the same shop, right? Your shop. The trick is, and the challenge is, it's really painful to manage it with all separate interfaces for all those different places. And it's nearly impossible. It'll just drive you bananas, suck up a lot of your time, and that time is what you need to grow your business. So a single interface to sell across eBay, Amazon, your store, and more is one of the keys to accelerating your growth and profits.
And it also eliminates a lot of the spreadsheet work.
Oh man, yeah, and mistakes and duplicates and confusion and overselling and all the rest. You know, share that inventory, and Vendio will show you what we can do for that.
Okay, so now I'm actually going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about your obsolete inventory and really ways to liquidate and get rid of your obsolete inventory and to really get a handle on everything. So the first question is, what can I do about my obsolete inventory? And the fact of the matter is you have to get rid of it. And it can have some benefits. But first, I want to tell you something. Mistakes happen. I have never met an online seller who has never made a purchase mistake. For some sellers, and I'm guilty of this, it becomes emotional, and it's not about the money or the number, but it becomes about your poor buying decision. And remember, mistakes happen. And then there's the other school of thought, and this happens a lot too, and I think it's a habit that sellers get into, especially in the collectibles market. They can't seem to break letting things go. So as a result, they have rooms and warehouses full of old, obsolete inventory. And they justify it that it could be worth something someday and shove it away in some corner, packed up in boxes for storage, and or it's sitting on an eBay store being relisted over and over and over again. It may be brilliant. You may have the one item in your big pile that's worth money. The problem is because it's packed in a box, when you need it, you will never find it. So I'm going back to the beginning. Your inventory is a list of your inventory, and you have to know where it is, and I'm going to add that it should always be for sale. You shouldn't have stuff packed around in a corner, and people are going to argue with me, I'm sure, and say, well, I collected Hess trucks, and I have, you know, I spend $1,000 a year. That market is going to cap, and then it's going to decline, like any other collectible market, like any other market. And so if you're lucky, you get to get in on the bonus time when it's really selling well. If you're not lucky, you're sitting there with Hess trucks 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and the market has declined, and you're just not going to get your money back. And you're tying up a lot of funds. So I'm going to tell you it's okay to let things go. So because you get a little benefit here. Before you look through your obsolete inventory, take a deep breath and tell yourself it's okay if you made a poor buying decision, and that it's okay to let it go. And what you can do is just imagine your extra space devoid of all that stuff you've been looking at and dusting and moving around for years. And then imagine having all that extra money to spend on more lucrative products. So this will really help you as you're going through the process of eliminating your obsolete inventory. And here's some ways to get rid of some of your obsolete inventory. You can donate it, and it also feels good. A couple things to note. If you are a corporation, you may be able to deduct twice your original cost, and that's 170E3 enhanced deduction from the IRS. You can get that form online. And if you're not a corporation, you still can deduct your cost. So it's a tax deduction to get rid of things by donating them. You can also use eBay GivingWorks. Selling via GivingWorks is a great way to donate items to a specific charity. You can also use your existing listings, so you don't have to take more photos. If you have them in a third-party service like Vendio, you can just change them over to be GivingWorks. And your listing fee from eBay GivingWorks are prorated, so if you're giving 100% to charity, the fees are returned. But you can also choose to give 50%. It gives a boost, so you can try to liquidate your items, and you're still getting some money back for yourself, and you're still at the same time feeling good by donating to one of your favorite charities. So this is something that I've noticed recently. eBay sellers are kind of doing junk drawer sales. I thought this was a really interesting thing. In this case, they have 12 bids. It's $165, and it's still for sale. And what's really interesting is I can look at this picture and tell you, okay, National Geographic would never sell on its own. The broken watch is likely not to sell on their own. Those 6 Bakelite pieces off to the right probably not could sell on their own, maybe for 99 cents or a couple bucks, depending on if they're real Bakelite or not. But the fact of the matter is you can put items together and kind of get rid of some of your obsolete inventory that way. And again, you're still making money, and in this case, I bet the seller's making more money than she had invested in the stuff. You can also liquidate. So eBay provides wholesale categories, and this is great if you have a large lot of bulk items that you can sell in bulk. And one thing to note, you're not giving away your crappy products to somebody else. In other words, your fish. They may have a market for that particular product locally, so you're not putting your problem on somebody else when you sell it wholesale like this. They may have a market that you don't have access to. You can also sell items in bulk to liquidators if you have the right type of product. It requires you manifest the items, and you're going to get a low price, but it's really great if you have a need for speed to get rid of your stuff. You can also have a clearance sale, and if you have a customer list, and I'm really hoping you've all developed your customer relationships, you can create a special sale day or a coupon code and let your customers know. And this type of offer actually works really good in social media. So you can actually like say, hey, I'm having a great big sale on my stuff, and get people in to help you get rid of your obsolete inventory. And here's something that many sellers actually forget that they can do. They can return the merchandise. There's usually around a 20% restocking fee, but remember your $100 cost you $22 this year, so if you're going to carry it another year, that's another $22. So taking the 20% restocking fee, you can still get 80% of your original cost back. And if you have sold some of the items over time, you've actually, kind of made money or broken even, so it's not that a difficult or a stretch to actually just pack up the items and return them. You can actually bundle items and sell them, and so this is, again, an eBay market thing because you can't really do this kind of thing on Amazon unless, of course, you are actually building some bundles and creating a UPC. So, for example, on Amazon, if you have a football and you want to put it together with a baseball and call it a sports package, you can go ahead and do that, but make sure that it's going to be worth your time. So if you only have one basketball and one football, it may not be worth your time to create a whole new Amazon listing or a whole new Amazon catalog item. But if you've got 10 of each, sure, it's a great way to bundle your items. So one of the best ways to move a substantial amount of bad product is actually to bundle it with a good product. So this is also referred to as kitting. So it's a good idea to find a complementary product that can be bundled with your dead item to make a new package. So if your baseballs aren't selling, your basketballs are, just kind of make a baseball package. And another thing you could do is actually sell multiples. So you could do a buy one, get one free. So buy a basketball, get another basketball for free. So there's lots of ways that you can think about bundling your products together to sell them. You can always do a gift with purchase. So just simply use them as giveaways to your customers, which is really delightful to your customers. But I will always recommend that you include a note, because I used to do that, and a couple times I didn't have a note in, and they always came back to me, you sent me an extra thing. It's like, no, I didn't. I included it as a free gift. Congratulations. So make sure you put a note in the package letting the customer know it's a free gift and to thank them for their order. And this is also a great way to increase your eBay DSRs if you ever have any problems with those. You can also take your items to a live auction. This is a really quick way to get all of your items out the door. If you've never gone and taken your items to an auction before, the commissions are somewhere around 30%, and it may be lower if you've got a lot of good quality antiques or collectibles or things that are good quality for the auction, but it's somewhere around 30 to 40%. It does require prep. If you have a lot of items, it's going to require that you build your own lots. So if you haven't been to a live auction before, go to a live auction, see how things are sold at that particular auction, talk to the auctioneer, get yourself a consignor number, and then you can actually label and box lot yourself. If you're the lazy seller who just wants to get rid of it, just take it in boxes and they'll do all that, but you'll make less money. You can always have a garage sale. I've done garage sales myself. I hate them. It's just not something that there's a lot of prep work and tagging. Everything doesn't sell. The prices have to be really low. But if you like that kind of thing and your neighborhood has a garage sale, you can use it, your neighborhood sale or whatever, you can use it to get rid of some of your obsolete inventory. So there are a lot of other ways that you can get rid of your, you can use Craigslist. There's tons of different ways to get rid of your obsolete inventory. So don't kind of corner yourself by saying, well, I'm only going to take it to auction, or I'm only going to do it on eBay, or I'm only going to do it this way. There are many ways. Take a look at your inventory and say, okay, this is the best way to dispose of or get rid of or make money on this section of obsolete inventory. So there's a couple conclusions here, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A, and here they are. There are costs associated with having and maintaining inventory above your initial cost. So if you spend $1,000 this year on inventory, it costs you more than $1,000. It's better to share your inventory across marketplaces and use a single interface, or it will drive you crazy. Trying to maintain it on a spreadsheet is insane. I've tried it. It's a waste of time. It takes forever, and you're bound to make mistakes. The only way to handle your inventory is to know where it is. It's not considered inventory. If it's in a box in the back of your warehouse, it's just not. It's stuff in a box. Next, the longer you have the inventory, the more it costs. And the one thing I really hope everybody takes away from this is it's okay to make mistakes. I've made them, and I don't know any sellers who haven't. And that there are options to handle obsolete, unsellable inventory. And now, questions. Oh, and one other note, if you have any questions about this presentation or Vendio in general, my phone number is here, 650-293-3557. Give it out to your friends and family if they have questions. I love to hear from people, or you can send me an email. I'm always available, and I love to talk to online sellers.
Crystal, this presentation has been awesome, and if you could see me sitting here at my desk with each slide you went through, I'm like, thumbs up, yes, yes, yes. I mean, you just like, boom, 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 hit the nail on the head so many times. And, you know, just, I love the fact that you brought up the issue of people feeling bad about their inventory choices. And, you know, I came, my first job out of college was as a merchandise buyer for JCPenney. So I come from the brick and mortar buying world. I still have friends who are buyers at Nordstrom, and it doesn't matter if you are a top buyer, if you're getting started, everybody makes inventory mistakes because consumers will always surprise us, right? We think we're picking the right products, and then the thing we didn't think will sell sells, and the thing we thought for sure would sell doesn't. So I love that you brought that up because it's really important to take that emotion out of there.
That guilt feeling, you know, oh, I bought it and I'm not selling it, and it's like, oh, I have to use it in my house. It's like, no, just get rid of it and take whatever you can get for it.
Exactly. So we have several questions here. I'm just going to go through them. So one question that came in, and I think this is a really good question, is how, in terms of inventory location, if you are stocking this inventory in your home, do you have recommendations for some type of a system, a barcoding system, something so that there's actually an inventory management online where you can go and pull something off the shelf and know exactly where it's going to be? Really good question.
Oh, it is a good question. What I do is I just tag everything with my own personal SKU, and then I put the location in my Vendio. There's an area that says warehouse location, and I just put what shelf it's on. A lot of different ways you could do it. You could do barcoding, but you know, I'm simple. I put stuff on a shelf and I just label where it is, so I don't have to worry about going in and trying to find items in my two-car garage that's loaded with stuff. So yeah, I just tag it with my own SKU, and then I put a warehouse location in so I know exactly where that inventory is, so I don't have to worry about it when it comes time to finding it or doing a physical inventory.
Oh, excellent. Now, let me piggyback on that with another question. If you're selling on Amazon and you're printing labels to ship product to FBA, is there a way in Vendio that you can tag the item with your Amazon, your ASIN number for your labels, and your inventory number that you have on your warehouse shelf?
Right. No, we don't support that function right at the moment, but it's really simple. Well, I guess we kind of do. We support FBA, so we bring that data in for you, and then all you need to do is go into that particular item and type in your shelf. But the fact of the matter, if it's FBA, you wouldn't have a warehouse location because it would be on FBA.
Right. And I think what people are thinking about is, I get all my inventory. I get my inventory from my supplier. I put it on my shelf somewhere, and then I list it on FBA and send it maybe 2 weeks later, or I'm replenishing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, we'll just grab that information from, you can just go in and just make that change from FBM, fulfilled by merchant, to fulfilled by Amazon. See, what you want to do is make sure your inventory, if you're using our system, you want to make sure you put your inventory in stock. Doesn't mean it's for sale, but you put your items in stock, and then if you want to change it from fulfilled by merchant to fulfilled by Amazon, then you would actually deduct that quantity, and it's ready for you to ship your items and get them ready for Amazon, FBA.
And if the inventory is in stock, if it's in stock in Vendio, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily listed, an active listing on Amazon.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. It's just there. But, why wouldn't you have it for sale? What I'm saying, I understand that you want to send this box in 2 weeks, but what happens if you were able to sell it fulfilled by merchant? You would be able to sell it out during that time. But many sellers really do prefer FBA over fulfilled by merchant. So it would be a choice on an item-by-item basis. But yeah, there's no reason not to have everything on sale. You can have it on sale on your store, et cetera, but definitely at least keep it in stock in one place. Again, it's that inventory list that you've got to have. So make sure that you keep it in stock when you get your items in. This way you'll never have a doubt in your mind as to where your items are, what's for sale, what's available for sale.
And to add to what Crystal said, it sounds to me like this is a process issue that people need to look at, because when that inventory hits if your house is where the inventory is being delivered, so your supplier sends that inventory, you want to turn that around same day or within 24 hours and get that back out to FBA, because the longer it takes you to get it to FBA, the more chance you're looking at the price changing, you're looking at more competition coming in. So I think one of the things that people need to look at is, so what is my process? If you're getting new inventory in from suppliers and it is not going out within 24 hours, 48 hours to FBA, that's a process issue, and you really need to have help to get that inventory out the door more quickly. So
I concur. The other side of that is if it's too expensive to ship it out to FBA unless you have a full box, then you would hold it back, I think. I think that's the only exception to that rule.
Good point.
Yes,
Another question here, Crystal, is how often should I check my inventory to see if it's stale or obsolete?
Well, that depends on how much effort you want to put into it. If you do it today, for example, and you say, my inventory is not that bad, okay, then do a check in 3 months. But if your inventory if you contain a lot of long tail items, you have a lot more money invested in stale inventory than in new inventory that's selling, you might want to get a handle on it and do it more frequently. But yeah, it's not something that you have to do every day. As long as you know where your inventory is and it's all accounted for, it's not something you have to go and do all the math and figure out every day. So it really depends on your business. The larger the business, the more inventory you have, the more frequently you should do this. But if you have 1,000 items and you look at them and you say, okay, I'm going to get rid of these 200, these are obsolete, and you do that every 3 months, it's great. So it really depends on your business and where you want to take it. You really want to get a good handle on it, do it more frequently. You're confident you're doing well, you know you're turning your inventory, you can do it less frequently.
Great. This question is about writing off inventory that you donate and the process to do that. Is that something that people really need to talk to their accountants about, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a simple
There
one.
you go.
No, seriously, it just becomes, what schedule do you file? Some people may not even be able to deduct their inventory if they're not filing like they're filing as individuals and they don't meet the deduction standards. So, and that really would be true of maybe retired couples who have to limit their income. So it's definitely something you should talk to a tax professional about.
Definitely. Love this question. Do you have a rule of thumb on how much inventory should be obsolete?
That's a good question. That really isn't, and it's going to be a depends. And here's what the depends is. If I'm selling antiques and collectibles that may, like books, for example, used old books, they have a longer tail. So kind of think, where is it profitable for you? Okay, if having 50% of your inventory is long tail specialty items is still enabling your business to be profitable, okay, that's what you should shoot for. Maybe you should shoot for reducing it by 10%. But if you have items like cell phone cases that you really need to turn fast and turn often, that's something that you should have, like no more than 20% sales stock. So that would be the kind of rule of thumb. Really depends on your business. I think the first thing is to get a snapshot of everything you own and see kind of like taking into account your carrying costs, what your inventory is really costing you, what it costs you to have those. And we haven't even talked about listing and marketing fees that you're paying to the various marketplaces. Great on Amazon because you only pay that $39 a month. But on eBay, when you're actually paying listing fees, it can be killer to keep relisting items that don't sell. So rules of thumb are really great to have in your head, but I think it's something, take a look at your overall business, take a look at your overall inventory and say, what's a good rule of thumb for me? And then aim to get there.
That's a really good explanation of how to look at it. And the bottom line is that everybody here, your business model is different. Some of you are selling collectibles, some are selling new consumer goods. And if stuff is not selling, those sales are not coming in, your cash flow is not coming in, you're having a hard time buying new inventory. And, everybody who knows me knows that I am a big proponent of running lean, meaning keeping the minimum amount of stale, aged, obsolete inventory in stock, because it's just, it totally drags your business down. So I would say err on the side of being more aggressive than holding on to it longer, because there's always great stuff out there to buy, but you've got to have the cash to do it. All right. Next question is about eBay GivingWorks and how that works. And I know if you guys go to eBay GivingWorks or eBay Help, there's information about eBay GivingWorks. But Crystal, can you just explain a little bit about that process?
Sure, I can. You can take your item that, let's say you had it on eBay and it didn't sell and you're going to resell it again. Just change it to an eBay GivingWorks item. You can do that in the Vendio system, and you can do that on eBay directly if that's where you sell. And then choose your charity where you want it to go. If you want it to go to the American Cancer Society or one of the other Salvation Army or Goodwill or wherever you want your donation to go, you say 50% of my sale price will go directly to this charity. And eBay will take care of the financials and everything else. So you don't have to do anything other than to just change it to a GivingWorks listing and pick the charity where you want to sell your item. And you can do that directly on eBay. You can do it on Vendio. We fully support that. So it's a really great way to not lose your work. And I know people, like, they've created their listing and they've put in a great description and they've taken all these photos, and it's really hard to take it out and just take it to the Goodwill and give it to them. You can do it online, and all your work is still valuable for some time while you're selling it for the charity. And you can donate up to 100%. So if you want to just say, okay, I'm going to take these 5 items and give all of it to charity, it's really great. And it's also great marketing, too, because people will look at your item. People look for GivingWorks items, and they'll look at your other items as well. So there's an added benefit is that it's a marketing tool as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a marketing tool, and it's just a nice way to give back. It's a nice way for your company to give back to a good cause. Crystal, does Vendio have a report that shows aged inventory in stock?
Actually, we don't have an aging report. We're not really an accounting system. And the reason being is that there's so many permutations of trying to get the data from eBay. For example, like listing fees. Even trying to get that information would be impossible because we don't have API access to their billing system, and they have promotions for this person but not this person. And so we're not accounting software as such. We do provide 4 different reports: cost, tax, profit, and something else that just escapes me off the top of my head. These are downloadable reports. And what you could do is actually just download your report and work from there. But we also, you'll know when you list your items, you'll know your oldest to newest. So that'll help there. You can actually just sort your list, and you've got oldest to newest, and which is the default. Your oldest is last. But yeah, this is something that you really want to, if you're doing your inventory correctly, you should have a list of the date you purchased and what it was, right? So it's just something, I don't know what everybody's accounting software is. I use QuickBooks, and there's 2 different versions of QuickBooks. So I have a really good idea of my inventory aging. And Amazon is really good about giving you that information as well, because they're going to charge you a lot of money if your inventory is over a year old. So that's something you can get from the Amazon reports as well.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up, just the long-term storage fees. It's February 21st. We just had an Amazon long-term storage fee charge on the 18th.
You definitely want to make sure you get your inventory back from Amazon before those long-term storage fees hit. They're absolutely insane.
Yeah, and start planning for it ahead of time. So, you want to make sure that, and Amazon has reports that obviously you can look at your seller reports and see what's old and see what's in stock, but start planning that a couple months out to start taking your incremental discounts on the products that are not selling. Well, now, if you keep up on this, as Crystal talked about in today's webinar, it really, if you do this on a quarterly basis, which is what I recommend to people, it really becomes a very minimal process when you get to those long-term storage fees, because you really have kept up on it. And I think this is something, this isn't something you want to wait and once a year at the end of January go, oh my goodness, I've got all this old inventory on Amazon, it's time to clear it out. As Crystal was saying, if you keep up on it on a regular basis, check it every quarter, make sure you stay on top of this, then you'll know that your inventory levels are healthy and current throughout the year, which is going to make for a much healthier business for you.
Right, and you definitely don't want to pay those long-term storage fees. It costs 50 cents per item, by the way, to get your item back.
Yeah, I mean, it's so inexpensive to get that inventory back. It's
Unless
awesome.
your item is a 99-cent book, and then it's not a really good idea.
Right.
And then it costs you to dispose of it, so it's a wash.
Yeah, and Amazon will destroy that inventory if you request for them to not send that product back to you.
And I didn't mention that you could actually throw items away. You could actually do that. If none of these other methods work for you, you can actually just throw it away. It's an albatross around your neck. Get rid of it.
Exactly. And I just want to mention, we also have the webinar that we did a couple weeks ago on multi-channel selling, where we actually go through the Vendio system, and Harry and Crystal did a great demo of the product so you can see what the system looks like, how you add your products to the multiple channels. And so I really recommend that if anybody has not seen that webinar, that you go back and look at this webinar, the first webinar, because you'll see how easy it is to keep track of your inventory and do exactly what Crystal said in terms of, okay, I've got this one item, I'm going to make it do triple duty, I'm going to put it out to Amazon, I'm going to put it out to eBay, I'm going to put it out to my website. So I just highly recommend that you guys go back and look at that webinar as well, if you haven't had a chance to really delve into what Vendio does for multi-channel selling. We have one final question here, and we're coming up on the 11 o'clock hour. And the question is, in terms of looking at inventory in different product categories, is there an easy way to manage that old, obsolete inventory when I sell in different product categories?
I don't think it's any different. The only thing that may be different from doing it this way is to kind of maybe break it out in your head. You know, for example, let's say you're selling in books, and you say, I'm going to have 20% long tail items that are obsolete, and I don't want to go above that. But I'm also selling in collector plates. Okay. But boy, I really don't want to carry those, so I only want to hit 10% rate for the ones that don't sell the long tail items for that. Or you could say, I'm doing electronics, and man, you know, I don't want any more than 15% long tail items that are not selling and that are obsolete inventory. So you can break it out by categories, but I tend to think most sellers stick within kind of like their own niche. So I don't really see too many sellers that have old books and brand new electronics. But if that's the case with you and your categories are diametrically opposed, then you can actually set different standards in your head, or when you're putting this in paper and when you're setting your goals, to break it out by your categories. But the process isn't any different. It's the same across the board, whether it's new, whether it's used, whether it's antique, whether it's coming off the supply line right into your house. There's just no real difference.
And, you know, don't fall in love with your inventory. It's a business decision. Take tough love on your product line, because it's there to serve you. You're not there to, you know, fall in love with it. That can be your personal hobby. If you've got a thing you love to collect, make that your hobby. Don't make that part of your business.
That's an excellent point. Excellent, as a collector of Red Wing pottery says.
Yes, well, and you know, and you can have fun collecting. Just don't do it in the business. Keep those two separate.
Yes.
Well, this has been just such an excellent presentation, Crystal. Thank you so much. This is a topic that you rarely hear people talk about. It's such an important topic, and there are literally millions and millions and millions of dollars out there in people's houses, in people's warehouses, that they could be reinvesting in their business right now. So this webinar has been so valuable. Crystal, thank you so much for being here and putting it together and breaking it down so people can see that there's a lot that goes into the cost of carrying this inventory.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure as always.
Well, excellent. And before we sign off today, I want to assign an action item to everyone who's watching this webinar, whether you're watching it live or the replay. If you're watching it in February, I want to assign an action assignment that before the end of Q1, which is going to be the end of March, that you take what we've talked about today in this webinar and apply it to your inventory, so that by the end of March, you have cleared out your aged, stale, obsolete inventory, and you've got that all gone, and you're starting the second quarter with a lean product line and some money in the bank. If you're watching this webinar after, you know, if you're watching it 2 months from now, take that same action item and implement this, because it really benefits you. And it, like Crystal said, it's found money. If you want to find money in your business, this is the way to do it. So Crystal, Harry, thank you so much for being here. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today, and I will see everyone on our next webinar. Bye-bye, everybody.